right, my friends, welcome to another edition of the Solopreneur Movement podcast. My name is Bruce Sloan. I'm the founder of the Solopreneur Movement and 90-Day Sales Manager. Every single week, I try to bring you some kind of relevant topic for you to grow your business as a quote-unquote solopreneur. It is fully up to you to grow your sales, your service, your marketing, your mindset, and of course, your business on a daily basis. And this is a special edition, Spend Time with Talent Mortgage edition. I have my new friend, Jimmy DeLay, that popped on here. So Jimmy, obviously, thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Thanks for having me here. I appreciate it.
And just to give our audience some kind of background, Jimmy's actually kind of the first interview that I've done where I didn't really know Jimmy that well. I'll just kind of tell the story. I was inside of our Solopreneur Movement Facebook page, and I was talking in there. I'm scrubbing my 10,000 person database and any pieces of advice. And Jimmy was like, he literally not only just gave me advice. He's like, hey, call me. I want to talk to you about X, Y, Z and what I've done to do this in my database. So we got to talking, really good energy, great insight. I said, hey, would you mind just coming on the podcast? And so here we are.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, Bruce. Really. That's one of the things that I try to do on my daily basis is try to help people. I work for, PRMG, a fantastic mortgage company, and they do things right. But I also, on a daily basis, I have to fight against so many recruiters that think they can make a phone call and win somebody over when it's a relationship game. So I find helping people first, because I think if they ever move, they're going to move to somebody they know, like, and trust. So let's build a relationship. So when I saw your message, had no ulterior motives and saying, I know I can help him in a short 5-minute phone call. And I hope it did.
Yeah, it absolutely did. And we've scrubbed it. So we're good to go. And we all know how big of a task that is for sure. So I do like to give our podcast interviewees a chance to kind of humble brag on themselves, tell your story in 3 to 5 minutes and let our audience know a little bit more about you and your background and stuff like that.
Sure. I guess I'm an old salt when it comes to business development or recruiting in the industry. For years, my first foray into recruiting was working with Exit Team Realty, which I was really excited about. They were one of the #1 real estate officer for Exit Realty as Exit was growing in the nation. My first full year working with them, I actually brought in 98 new realtors into their system. They grew from really 2 agents in 1989 to about 2008. They were about 540 agents until the tsunami of change came and everybody moved on. So I was really, really proud. Kind of a funny thing is I didn't know picking up the phone and talking to strangers was actually a job. I didn't know. I go back to when I was 6 and 7 and me and my cousin would be up in my dad's office dialing for dollars with a little egg timer, and whoever could stay on the phone longer would be the winner. And, fast forward like 25 years later, I realized, hey, this is a job, talking to strangers. I really like it. So I was really proud of that. From there, I started working with a mortgage company out of St. Louis to kind of cut my teeth on the mortgage world. Then was really happy to have a good career with my former company for about 5.5 years until PRMG came knocking, and just kind of blown away, by what they do and how they really look at their loan officers and branch managers as their customers first. They really are a company by originators for originators. And then on top of that, the things that have changed, even in the last 5 to 6 years in the business development or recruiting world, is gone crazy. There's no more just picking up the phone. Most of the loan officers aren't wanting to talk about it. Everybody you talk to is happy. I'm not looking to go anywhere, even if they are. It comes down to, if somebody's going to be moving, they're going to be moving to somebody that they, again, know, like, and trust. So you're an example. What I do on a daily basis is just try to get to know people and build relationships. I kind of use the term like if we were at a cocktail party or a networking event and we started talking to each other, nobody runs away and says, hey, I'm happy, leave me alone. So I try to come to a point of just soft, build a relationship. Let's get to know each other. Heck, I know that I've helped some people recruit into their branch, and they're probably never going to join PRMG because I gave them some tips, some tricks, or even taught them, hey, it's about relationships. So get to know people first before you start asking. So when I saw your message, which I guess, I don't look at my job as 9 to 5 by any stretch of the imagination. And while I'm watching the football game, I happened to see, you were scrolling and looking through, figuring out your database. And because I had just I had to rebuild my database through LinkedIn and my sphere of influence and some old stuff that I had in the past, that I needed to rebuild everything as I made the transition. And I was struggling. I was trying to find somebody. And then the light went off. I go, oh yeah, I remember Fiverr back in the day. So I went on there and I asked some people from the United States to Hungary to Vietnam. I had all kinds of bids in. I found a wonderful data analyst in New York City that was lickety-split quick, took 4 or 5 of my database and put them together, eliminated duplicates, just kind of really helped me clean it up, and it cost me like $40.
Yep.
And I was struggling with it for weeks, and I was so glad. So I think I was more excited to tell you about the jewel that I had found than anything else. So I was really happy, because at the end of the day, it's about helping each other. Yep. It's always about helping each other first.
Perfect. So, well, let's get into, the meat of today's presentation or interview would be, data. I would say database management. Obviously, that's what we're talking about. That's how we met in the first place. Mm-hmm. And, let's say somebody out there is brand new in sales. I know this is always one of those things, like everybody says, I wish I would have started keeping my database updated from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that, number one? And then number two, what are some tangible piece of advice that you would give somebody that's maybe newer in their business?
Well, now growing and managing a database is probably more important than ever, because, from Amazon to all the big monsters out there, it's data that is worth so much. And if these are your customers and these are the people you're looking to cultivate relationships with, you got to be able to manage a good database. And, nowadays, CRMs, there are a dime a dozen. There's a lot of good players out there that don't charge a lot. Many companies that you join, offer you a CRM. And a lot of times, both realtors, loan originators, they don't take care of that database like they could, when in fact, that's their money for the future. It's building their relationships. So being able to manage and use a database is so important. It's so important.
So managing and using a database, mm-hmm. I completely agree. And that's actually something that we're about to go all in on at our company, because I have the pleasure of speaking in front of some big time companies that pay hundreds, if not millions of dollars for their company-wide CRM. And consistently, it's the same conversation. How do we get our people to use the CRM, to engage in the CRM? And I mean, my personal belief on it is, a lot of people in sales, they fly by the seat of their pants. They don't want to slow down. Mm-hmm. They don't want to plan. They don't want to update things. They don't want to track things. They just want to talk to people, which is natural.
Yep.
Like you were talking about that, I get paid to talk to people. But if we can truly manage our database and those activities and measure the actual key performance indicators and understand all that stuff, that is only going to help propel our business to that next level.
It's exactly it. And it's so true. Whenever I've coached branch managers or even real estate brokers, the first thing, and they want to know how to recruit. And the first thing I said is, do you have a list? And the list is the getting ready to get ready part. You got to have some seeds you need to plant, and you got to know where they are. Well, nowadays, it's so easy to start building a database. It's just, you begin one by one. I want to make sure that on a daily basis, I'm inputting at least 10 to 12 new names and phone numbers into the database. It makes all the difference in the world. And then being able to manage it and use it and touch it on a daily basis is so important. So normally when I'm coaching a branch manager, it's like, okay, do you have a list? Well, nowadays, LinkedIn makes it so easy to start a database. I mean, you can connect with people. Most people have at least 500 connections on their LinkedIn, and you can export that, and boom, you've got a database of some people right out of the gate. I mean, it's the way to do it. And then one of the things that I see is sometimes they'll have lists, but they don't really go back and manage them. When you're doing business development, or even if you're chasing a customer or a borrower, taking good notes that might have nothing to do with the person's specifics of the property they're looking for or the company they're going to, but knowing about them, knowing that they have 3 children and the oldest son plays baseball, and what's his name, what's his position. and they happen to mention your dog. So when I'm using my database or I'm talking to somebody, my hands are on the keyboard and I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes furiously. I want to hear everything, and I want to be able to write it down. I want to remember it, because I'm going to go back and call them again, leave a message, or continuing to follow up. Those things are probably more important than the bigger details of the company, getting to know somebody. Again, building a relationship.
I'm smiling over here because you're talking about taking notes, and you know, it reminds me, I don't know if you're a fan of The Office or not, but it reminds me of you know, Dwight gets a copy of Michael's like Rolodex, and he's like, on the back of one of the cars that Dwight gets, it's like highlighted in green, and green means go ahead and shut up about it and not talk about it. It's just it's a funny Office skit, but but it reminds me of, like, you know, taking notes and building a system that works for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, I mean, I talk to a lot of people on a daily basis, and of course, just like everybody, you get a lot of no's. But when you leave a message 3 or 4 months later, or, you know, you want to leave something tangible, or even if somebody was like, shut the hell up and hung up, I want to know that when I'm calling that person back, because, you know, once is never enough. You got to call a few times. You got to be able to get in front of.
You got to go for no multiple times,
or at least a restraining order. You know, you got to you got to continue to call and follow up and try to provide value where others aren't.
Well, in the recruiting business, I know, you know, I have the pleasure of knowing a lot of folks that are in mortgage and recruiting, and you guys do have to go back again and again and again, because, you know, that's the nature of your game. I mean, I think out of all the salespeople out there, recruiters more than anybody have to be able to follow up and have thick skin and hear no, and to be able to handle that on a regular basis.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really hear no. I just hear not today. But, you know, but then again, you know, it's not about, you know, I don't think anybody can really recruit anybody, to be honest with you. It's being able to be there to help somebody when they're ready. And there's really not an industry name for that, but it's really the truth. I mean, I think about a branch manager that I've been talking to on and off for the better part of, you know, 4.5 years. And people will go, 4.5 years? Oh my God. But when he's ready, hey, who am I going to call? You know, who's going to call me? Or perhaps today they weren't ready for the company that I'm at now. Well,
your sales cycle is so much longer. Be so much longer. And that's why having a CRM and a database and having it updated, because that's really the mindset that we have within our company. It's not a matter of if you're going to try 90-day sales, it's a matter of when. Mm-hmm. And so if we can keep coming back with value and giving you, like we're talking about, some kind of relevant top content, you know, it's that whole, you mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk, that give, mm-hmm. you know, jab, 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 punch kind of a thing.
Yep.
And so that's the mindset that we're in as a company as well. And it's exactly the mindset it sounds like that you're in from a recruiting standpoint, because you have to be.
Yeah. And by the same token, there are a lot of other people doing my job at other companies that are very, very good.
Yep.
And to be able to jump on the phone with them as well and share best practices about what's what, you know, it makes all the difference in the world. I just lost a deal. The gentleman decided not to join our company. But 2 weeks later, he calls me. He says, you know, I just like talking to you. Do you have 5 minutes? Well, yeah, because it's still a relationship.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And why not continue to build it and help and grow?
For sure.
It's all about it.
Never burn a bridge. And especially in the mortgage real estate communities where it's like 5 degrees of separation, probably more like 2 degrees of separation, right?
Yeah. I mean, why not? I mean, everybody seems to go to conventions. They go to their office gatherings once a year, and they go there to learn and network and what somebody doing. You know, I think that the way recruiting is going now is they're going to start seeing, hey, that, you know what, this guy might have a motive of trying to help me and get to another company, but by the same token, he's willing to kind of help me and tell me what's going on at his company. Maybe I can plug some of those things in to my company.
Yep.
Or maybe I come across a loan officer in your neck of the woods that we don't have a branch. Well, I still want to help that person. That's one of the things that I get all the time. Like, why would you do that? There was somebody that didn't fit our company, but I knew a company that they would fit good at. And they were like overwhelmed. Like, why would you do that? Well, because it always comes back to you. You know, You do the right thing, it comes back.
Well, I love it. There's two areas that I want to focus on
Hmm.
to close out our interview. Number one, you had mentioned the CRM and actually using it, and I think that's the number one challenge I think for most people is just using a CRM. When you set it up on the front end, I mean, are there certain like first name, last name? I mean, I want to talk about the pure basics
Sure.
for somebody that's maybe brand new out there, because again, I went through all this because once you do it once, if you do it right on the front end, it's a whole lot easier. I had to go back
Yep.
through and, quite honestly, the guy that you refer me, he's like, no, that I can't really do that because it's not automated. It's not an automated process, because I had to go through and do position and then title,
Hmm.
position title based on, are you in sales? Are you a manager? Are you in
Right.
recruiting? Are you a coach? He's like, yeah, I can't really automate that process.
Because you can't figure
So
out, he would have to do all that minuscule research. Right.
that's exactly right. And so that's one thing that I learned is like, oh my gosh, I need to set this up right on the front end. So I just spent a lot of time going back through and doing that. So what are some pieces of advice then that you would give from just from day one setting it up?
Well, you know
And
what?
and actually, Jimmy, before we say, like, because the challenge here, it's like, how do we get just enough without it being overwhelming too, to where we're going to
Yep.
use it?
Yep.
Yep.
Well, part of it is, first off, you got to open up the box, right? You got to get the CRM that's gonna help you. There's a lot of big, clunky CRMs out there that could take you weeks to even begin to understand. But there are also a lot of pretty simple ones as well that you can help. So opening up the box, seeing what's there, taking a couple of their training classes to understand that system is so important. And then it's beginning, putting in the right information, the name, the position, the company, as best as possible, using cell phones and personal email addresses. I personally don't like to really email anybody at their company. I'd rather email it, to their personal email address, but being able to get the good information in. Kind of a little tip, there's a company called Contact Out that will sit on top of Chrome as an extension. And I think they give you 2 or 3 months for free to let it sit over and try it out. But what that does is it pulls in personal email addresses through LinkedIn, even if you're not connected. So that's a nice little tip for everybody, because I use that for quite some time, and it's something I manage, I talk about often. But that was a really good company. But making sure that you're putting the good stuff in. And then also, with every conversation, you're putting notes and you're making sure that all your information is correct. It's really important. Recently, I was talking to somebody, and one of my cohorts had been emailing a branch manager for a year and getting nowhere with them. Well, when I happened to get on the phone with this person, I realized that they had an incorrect email address off by one letter. So they were missing one letter. So that person never got any of their emails. That goes to show you how important it is to listen, to repeat back, and make sure you have the right contact information.
Yep.
It's so important.
Yeah. So talking about, let's take that a step further. There's actually a couple of things. Number one is, getting the correct email addresses. And so there's a website that you gave me when it came to that really helped me kind of figure out which
Mm-hmm.
ones were actually being delivered or not. Was it Verify
I think it was
My,
verify email address. I'll check really quick while we're talking here, so I can make
yeah.
sure I give you the right thing.
And again, in the show notes, we'll have these different little resources that are listed there. That way you can go directly there. And
Yeah,
I mean,
that
to
was.
verify my email list, I mean, it was, I had 10,000. I think it cost me like $25
Yeah,
for them to run
it
a
was
search.
verify email list, right? And
Perfect.
it works really well. And it wasn't that expensive. They cleaned it up and they gave me basically saying, hey, you can email these 200 people that didn't fit in, but we wouldn't suggest it, which I liked, because again, I want to be a help, not a hindrance. And I'm also,
Exactly.
if somebody doesn't unsubscribe or wants to be unsubscribed, I can't unsubscribe them fast enough, because I do not want to be that pain in the butt guy.
That's exactly right. And I mean, if you are running your own company, it costs you money for every email.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost you a whole lot more, but it does cost you if you're running your own CRM and your own business. The more contacts you get, the more money it's going to cost you. So, you want a high click through rate. That was actually another question I wanted. So, what is a good? Is there a benchmark for you as far as click through or even opens? I'm kind of
Um,
putting you on the spot here.
yeah. I mean, God knows we would love to have a 50% open rate, but that doesn't really happen. So I think anything in the 20s or 30s, I'm celebrating, but by the same token, I try to let go on some things. In other words, there are certain things that you do not have control over, so I have to let go and want to see the incoming into the return emails or the phone calls are way more important to me than even the opens.
Perfect.
It's nice to have the opens, but you want it to drive business or really relationships.
Well, I think that's another key point too, is a lot of people think like, oh, if I just blast out to my email, I don't have to have sales calls. I mean, it couldn't be further from the truth. It's just an additional tool that you can be using in that process.
Right, because you only have so much time in a day.
Yep.
So many people don't know you, or loan originators and realtors too. Nothing worse than seeing a past customer go somewhere else because they forgot about you.
Yep.
So the idea is you don't know who's out there that you could help. I mean, it's such a huge world, but managing your database and making sure that it's always updated is correct. And also the other part is that I think a lot of people miss with their database is setting the next task. I mean, when I make a phone call, I mean, this morning, my Mondays, figuring that people that I'm looking to talk to are pretty busy on a Monday after a weekend, holidays are coming. So I don't want to be that annoyance, just picking up the phone and calling people to get the usual, hey, I'm not interested. So I spend my Mondays sending short 30 to 35-second videos to my past contacts that I've talked to, some that I've never talked to, but send them a video email right into their phone. And the ones that respond is great. But sure enough, I'm putting in there what I said on my video to them, and then I'm setting the next task to follow up next week or whenever. So almost every one of my contacts has a follow-up task.
Yep.
That's what a CRM
is
for, right?
That's what a CRM is for, is it's to help automate that process and decrease slippage, increase retention.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's really all we're trying to do. Sales is a game of probability at the end of the day. We're just trying to drastically increase the probability, as we've talked about, of something good happening in the future. So if we have this incredible tool, but I do love the fact that you go that plus one step, like you're talking about, I want to do a video, I want to do this, I want to do that. And again, that's where 95% of people get bogged down. They don't do those extra additional steps in that process.
Yeah, I've got a whole division now. The gentleman I work for directly, great leader, Steve Levine, but he loves my videos, and I use those little videos too for appointments too, because I don't want people no-showing. If I have them talking to somebody higher up at my company or whatever, I want to make sure that I'm not wasting their time too. So usually the morning of the call, similar to what doctors do, right? You get a phone call 2 days before, hey, you've got an appointment at 2:00. If you're not going to make this appointment, let me know. Well, I assume that everybody's busy, and God knows in my field, branch managers and loan officers, if they're talking to me and they are interested, they start to do business, and they're probably talking to 4 other people.
Yep.
So my game is how do I separate myself without being annoying and being remembered? So usually that morning, I'm sending a video. I'm copying the person that I have the call with, saying, hey, we have a call today at 2:00. Just calling to confirm. Please respond back. And if you can't make it, please let me know. Because nobody wants to waste time. But again, trying to set yourself apart a little bit is key.
Very much so. And I mean, I've been through that game. We do a lot of demo stuff for our coaching platform. And it is very frustrating when you're, I got to go get my seat by this time, and then they no-show you. And that happens a lot, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it's such a wasted time for you and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Yep. Perfect. So I want to talk, Sean. So, I mean, this conversation honestly is much of a coaching call for me. This is fun. So I can just kind of pick your brain. You had mentioned LinkedIn, and as of like 2 days ago, I didn't know you could export contacts out of LinkedIn even. So, so when I exported my contacts and the email address, though, depending on the list, it was empty. So you're saying I could go use this open
contact out.
Contact out.
Yeah, it is a paid service, but I do believe they give you like 2 or 3 months for free.
Okay.
And it sits over Chrome as an extension and has a little widget up in the corner. So when you come across a profile, it doesn't work 100% of the time, but it does work about 70% of the time to get a different email if you're not connected. But then again, that database, which is what LinkedIn really is only as good as the person managing it. So last week I was like, I'll confirm the email with somebody, and they're like, oh, I haven't used that email for ages. So I turned that into a coaching call. Hey, do you want to talk about how to straighten out your LinkedIn? And because it really takes 5 or 10 minutes to help somebody, you know, and it's not a big deal, but you realize that their database, their LinkedIn isn't even up to date, you know, so it's nice to be able to have that little resource. And I found that to be useful.
Well, I just find all this to be useful. You know, I truly believe that you could build out a 45-minute presentation on how to do all of this stuff, and even use it as, you know, whether you want to use it as a recruiting tool or not, you don't have to, but it's like, it's such a value add, you know, for people like me and for the thousands of people that I coach. It's consistently database management and time management, and using your CRM is one of, if not the biggest missing structures. And so again, like if we can help solopreneurs get this right on the front end, it's so vital for you and the rest of your career as we go forward, especially like you're saying, in today's data-driven world.
Yeah, it's so important. It's a small detail that really pays off. But the other thing is too, is, you know, you got to work it. You got to keep your hands in it. I subscribe to the theory that, you know, some people will make the phone call once, some will make it twice, very few will make it 3 times. I'm more of how do I keep on calling you and build a relationship so we can talk for years?
Yep.
And that, I mean, I'm not that smart, so I got to make sure something's helping me, and pen and paper don't cut it. So I have to make sure that I've got something that's helping me manage it. And I've worked with a few of them. I mean, you know, moving from a company to company, everybody's got their different platforms, and there are a lot of good, inexpensive, you know, CRMs to help manage business.
Yep. Well, perfect. Anything that you want to add? You know, I was going to get into prospecting and some other things. We try to keep these things right at 30 minutes, and I didn't think that we would honestly be able to talk about CRM and database management for 30 straight minutes. But this was amazing. Like I said, I have little takeaways now that I can go implement in my own business. And I really do appreciate you, you know, being proactive in our first conversation, even of reaching out. So is there anything else that you want to add to, you know, to folks out there when it comes to any of this stuff?
Well, you know, at the end of the day, we're in sales. At the end of the day, it's really a relationship business. So whether you're a realtor and you've got your customers that you've had for years, or, you know, you're a loan officer and you've got customers, you want them to be your customers forever. So you need a mechanism to replace some of the time in the day to make you more efficient. I'm always trying to be more efficient, and I'm ADD. Doesn't take much for me to see a squirrel run and I've lost my focus. But that database and that management in that CRM keeps me focused on task and knowing what I have to do. I mean, you should have seen me. I'm sending videos this morning, and I'm sending a video. I'm making sure it's going to the right number, and the notes are in the CRM, and I'm setting the next task for follow-up. But that's what we do, right? I mean, you got to do that, whether you're a loan officer, a branch manager, a realtor, or a broker. You know, you got to do it because it's your business.
And the key is for you, you're doing it every single day because you know why you're doing it. It serves a purpose for your business and the organization of it.
Oh, you know what? I mean, it's kind of, I get to the point where it's a little, I guess, anal to a bit. So for instance, I was waiting for my wife to come out of her store on Saturday, and I found time to send 3 video texts to a few people. Well, I come home, drop the packages, I run up to my CRM and I put notes that, hey, I sent 3 videos. I mean, I'm doing it even on Saturdays. It's, you know, it's what you do, you know, but you get into that habit and it takes care of it. It takes care of yourself.
You get into the habit, and the reality is everybody competes harder when there's a scoreboard. And for you, your CRM is your scoreboard. It's your legacy. That's one of the things that we coach on is, you know, I'm a big Stephen Covey fan, mind, body, heart, spirit. And to me, the spirit, the need to leave a legacy, that's your CRM if you want to look at it that way. Is we work so hard to get all these different people and have these conversations. So if we can truly nourish and manage our CRM the way that you do, like you're talking about, like you can't wait to get up there and put those notes in there and have that call to action. You know, it's just such a big part.
Yeah. And then when you come to prospecting, technology is changing so much. So what might not have been a good prospect a year ago could be a really good prospect 2 years from now. Well, how are you going to stay in touch with these people if you don't have something helping you? I mean, the Rolodex is long since gone, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. Well, we have, you know, just to let you know, we have like 10 categories of people in our CRM that we coach people on, and every single one serves a purpose. We're trying to, like you said, we're trying to work them through and have a call to action and continue to nourish that relationship. Therefore, at some point, something happens because of it. So, well, this was amazing. I know it's like not quote unquote sexy by any means, but it's so relevant to everybody's business out there. So, I'm amazed 65% of real estate agents do not have a CRM. And I would say I want to say 99%, but 99% don't consistently use their CRM. I mean, it is consistently one of the biggest struggles, not only for individual solopreneurs, but also for companies.
Yeah. Well, I will tell
getting people to use it.
I would strongly guess that the top 6 to 8% of loan originators, branch managers, real estate agents, and real estate brokers do have a CRM.
Yep.
Maybe that's their secret, huh?
That is the secret. And I would say, Jimmy, and we can end on this with your opinion, but like if you're not currently using your CRM the way that you should, start today. Then start with your current contacts, the people you're talking to. Yep. Don't try to go all the way back through your 7,000 people like I did. I would say start today and just now have it being an ongoing process. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Like I said, you got to open up the box first, find a CRM that's easy to use, easy for you to understand, and jump in and just begin.
Perfect. Well, my friend, thank you so much. Jimmy, let our audience here know where they can reach out to you if that's all right with you.
Yes, you can always reach out to me through LinkedIn. I'm available at 561-271-0908 or jdelay@prmg.net. Love to talk, man. I love it. It's, building relationships is what it's all about. So if I can help anybody, I'm more than happy to jump on it and help them, as we did with you, Bruce. And it's really nice meeting you, and I'm glad it helped you.
Likewise, my friend. And obviously, Jimmy's inside of our Solopreneur Movement Facebook page as well. So feel free, obviously, when this podcast drops, I'm sure we'll get a bunch of comments and stuff like that, asking for some of these links that we gave, and even asking, quite frankly, quite honestly, because I did the export on my LinkedIn, and I was like, oh, this is really cool, but it was like they give you so much detail that's almost like overwhelming to know where to even start. And then the one list that I did want to use, like all the email addresses were blank, so I was kind of surprised by that one. Maybe I didn't do it right. But I'm sure there's ways that you can get that information.
Absolutely.
Yep, for sure. So thank you, my friend. We appreciate it. We really do.
Thank you.